Okay, shall I start?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, humans. This is V, and I'm M, and we are the Bearded Ladies. On this channel, we talk about topics that interest us, sometimes researched, sometimes not, because our brains won't stop overanalyzing things. Last week we talked about dating coaches, primarily on YouTube. Today, we're actually going to discuss dating preferences and what factors seem to be important during the dating process. I think we're going to focus primarily on what attracts people to each other in the beginning of courtship. So, for myself, I hadn't really researched too much into this topic. I guess I had heard some things, right, like on YouTube about dating preferences, or even like dating coaches talking about like scientific research done on dating preferences. So, for me, this was kind of interesting to see if any of it backed up. So, what I found actually with my limited research, don't get me wrong, with my limited research, was that there was kind of two camps, right? There were the sociologists that said that it was more evolutionary, biologically based, certain attraction features, whereas others would argue that it was primarily based on social hierarchies. So, for example, and I think from the research that did, which she can tell us about more later, was a lot of the biological evolutionary factors that people cited was maybe for males, youth and physical attractiveness due to the possibility of fertility from women. And then for females, it seemed like there was a lot of emphasis on intelligence, which could correspond to the idea that you'd want a mate that could know how to get resources. So if you want to jump in on that, that'd be interesting.
So I did my research very lightly as well. I did mine male versus female, and similar to what M was saying, I have for the males that they look for youth, beauty, and health primarily in their mates across the board, regardless of race. And for females, I recognize that they tend to go towards personality, status, and maturity. So there's a couple of ways I can go with this. Um, where do you think I should start? Should I just name my sources and my?
Yeah, if you want to name your sources, that'd be interesting.
Okay, so I love online dating coaches that are on YouTube. To name three specifically, we have Shira7, and she has a video up titled. One second, let me look at my notes. It is okay. It's not in my notes. Oh yes, it is. It is called "Change Up Your Look." Your man is bored, and she primarily works with wigs. So change your makeup, change your wigs, change all that. The toxic dating coach. He has a video called "Give Men More Space Than Necessary," which I think is a great way to start things off. And then there's this other YouTuber by the name of Elliot Scott. I don't remember the video that he made specifically in which he said this, but he said, this is verbatim. You can't see it through my actions except for M can see it. But he
Mm-hmm.
goes, he's in his car, and he goes, whenever you want to be with a man, don't spike like insulin and go, ah, ah, ah. And I thought that was so hilarious because he was like just smacking the top of his car. So don't be like diabetes, okay? Um, just saying, you don't want to have sugar spikes when you're around your lover. At least when it comes to men, men don't prefer those crazy girls. At least they'll call them crazy.
Mm-hmm.
For the women, I actually started books instead of YouTubers. So it's remembering that she was said seven said that you need to change up your look. I have a book called "Women Have All the Power, Too Bad They Don't Know It," and there's one section in which it gives you 10 ways to change up your sex life. I won't name all of them, but I'll name one really quickly because I got to get through this a little quickly, guys. Please forgive me. Wear high heels and fishnet stockings while breaking him off some. That's one thing that you can do to help spruce up your sex life. I have a book called For Men Only, and I also have a book called The Man's Guide to Women, and I put my little post-it notes in there, but I don't want to overtake the whole um, talk here with me sitting here trying to get my notes out to you guys. But yeah, that's what I have so far.
So actually a few of the things, let's start with the female, right? Because I think later on when we talk about the guy's video, it actually, when I was watching it, brought up a lot of interesting thoughts that I wanted to discuss with you.
Mm-hmm.
So first with the females, it seemed like a lot of the times with like Shira 7, I noticed that it was, of course, changing the physical appearance, which a lot of times it seems that that was important with male selection, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting, right? Like there's this separation of, you know, what biologically we would find attractive. It's not like evolutionary wise we're like, fishnets. I gotta do that for fertility.
Right.
But it's like this social concept that a woman wearing like a very seductive outfit gives the impression of fertility, right?
Mm-hmm.
So which made me kind of lean more into that socially we are more influenced on our dating preferences.
Mm-hmm.
What would you think about that?
Socially, we're more influenced by our dating preferences.
Oh, wait. We're words. We are influenced by social constructs for our dating preferences, more so than biology.
So it's more socially than biologically speaking.
Yeah, that's a simple way to say it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, E.
I read your notes. I'm thinking like you now. Okay, so I think it could actually go either way. I won't get into the full logistics of it, but I noticed for myself at a very young age, I was sexually attracted to a certain body part. And as I got older, I realized being attracted to that body part was because of a not biological thing. Okay, I'll say biological. It was because of a biological mishap that happened in my childhood. I'll put it that way. I'll talk about it later, maybe in one of my videos that's going to be coming up soon. But for now, I'll leave it at that. So I think it can be biological, but I also think it is socially constructed as well, because there's so many different cultures in the world that have different ways of showing what beauty is. For example, one might say having a very long neck is very beautiful, so they put rings on their necks to make their necks appear longer. You do that in the West, you do that here, we're going to think you're a little weird. That's about as beautiful as you're going to be. You're going to be like that giraffe girl. It's a little weird.
Yeah.
So I think it can go both ways.
Yeah, and I mean, like, it's interesting, right? Like, from the research that I found, scientists don't seem to know where the separation is between evolutionary or biological interest in a sexual partner versus what is determined socially, right? Like, the line gets a little bit hazy. There's not like a clear cut, right?
Yeah.
Oh, also, audience members, if you know more about this and you have like some references for us to check out, please do.
Let us know
share
in the comments below.
But so maybe to get onto the video of, oh, what's his name? The toxic
dating coach?
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, that guy, he brought up some topics that I thought was interesting. But could you kind of like give us a quick summary of his video?
So the one that I suggested, the first one that I read out loud a little earlier, basically I wrote down space equals chase. And chase equals good as long as the man is the cat. You got the cat and mouse game. The man has to be the cat. At least between heterosexual couples on average, we'll say it like that. There's actually biological reasons for this that I don't know specifically why. I just know that there are. Men prefer at times to have more space in their relationship than the women do. In the book Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus, he the author cites it as men being rubber bands and women being something else. I forgot what the woman was. Oh, a well, like a deep well. By the way, we are 10 minutes in, so if you would kindly like, comment, share, and subscribe if you like what we have going on here, we greatly appreciate it. Back to what we were talking about. Yeah, so men prefer space. Too much closeness for some biological reason. It has to do with the testosterone, I believe. They can't stick around for too long, and it's actually a good thing. It seems like it's not to the woman that it might be happening to, obviously, but that's what keeps the relationship fresh. I'll put it like that.
And actually, that's interesting that you brought up that testosterone, right? Like, I think one of the videos I sent you about a TED Talk, the lady was talking about what biologically causes men and women to fall in love, if you will. And, you know, this lady is talking about brain chemicals, so it's not like this moral idea of love, but just like what feelings, how can we get those feelings of love to occur? And she said that for women, kind of like what you're saying is the well, the idea of bonding was primarily like the brain chemical for bonding heightened after sex, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the idea of like women should wait to have sex before they know whether or not they want to have a long-term relationship with a partner is maybe a good idea. And then for men, this is where the testosterone part comes in. Men's bonding hormone is hindered with levels of testosterone.
Mm-hmm.
So the bonding hormone that she's citing as like this feeling of love is less likely to have an effect the more testosterone a man has. And what she cited was when a man is able to have a longer period of bonding with a woman, his testosterone will naturally lower and allow for that bonding hormone, right, to be more effective. So it kind of ties into what you were saying, right?
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I watched that video today because of your notes. But just to let you know, we're about 13 and a half minutes in. You want to start asking questions?
Yeah, so for me in my research, I thought a lot of the articles, it seemed like there was difficulty in determining whether the purpose of a relationship was short-term or long-term, right? So for you, do you think the initial stage of like deciding on who you want to date changes on whether you want long-term versus short-term?
Yes. There's a study done, I'll make it quick, that said that when men are looking for long-term women, they look at their faces, and when they're looking for short-term women, they look at their bodies. So that's just one example of how we may look at people differently depending on what it is that they want. So I would definitely say, yes, it does change for whatever section you want, long-term or short-term.
So would you say, because that sounds biological with like a hint of social, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree with that?
I mean, I think it makes sense. Even babies, they've done studies where babies are more attracted to what we would call aesthetically pleasing people, that symmetry, good-looking faces. Even babies can recognize when someone's quote unquote unattractive. I won't say ugly.
Yeah, but like the idea that they'll switch, right, from looking at a face to looking at a body based on their goals. Do you think that has some hint of social conditioning or no?
I think it does, because you hear guys and they're the stereotypical group of guys that are watching women walk down the street and they're like, oh my god, look at that fat, or look at that beautiful set of brown eyes. Because we know how men talk about us.
Yeah.
I think it is definitely social. And then you think some men like those thin women. I think this goes by class though. The thinner the woman is, the higher in class she can be. Whereas the lower in class you see bigger women. So I think it is definitely socially as well.
Yeah, depending on the community.
So we're about at our time limit.
Okay, so then your question?
Okay, so I'll just do one because we're almost out of time. Um, do preferences have to be a power struggle, such as changing for your significant other to try to match their preferences?
So that seems like a combination of your second question too. So I guess I'm curious, what do you mean by power struggle?
So I, for example, have a hard time wanting to dress the way that, let's say, an upperclassman would want me to dress.
Mm-hmm.
I can dress like a quote unquote ghetto girl. I
Mm-hmm.
can dress as a really chill Bremertonian, but
Mm-hmm.
I can't make myself be certain ways just to please a man. Maybe he likes blonde hair, and I don't look good in blonde hair.
Mm-hmm.
So, in a way, it's almost like a power struggle. Should I be myself, or should I be who he wants me to be?
I mean, I think in all types of like initial dating responses, and I heard this from like a therapist, right? That we put our best representative to go on our date.
Mm-hmm.
We don't bring ourselves, we bring our representative. Like the
Mm-hmm.
person that's supposed to socially interact with the other person's representative to figure out, like, can we continue on?
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that in the initial parts of dating, of course, we pretend, well, I don't want to say pretend, but we put on a facade of some sort of how we want to be perceived within for our partner, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how we dress and how we want to be perceived can also be determined based on, the society we're in.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the more the more you bond with said person, the more you have to kind of let that facade go. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think as far as it being a power struggle, how can I? So there was another article that I had cited that no concrete proof, but was suggesting that the more a culture or society is equal in its um, gender equality, the less likely there is going to be this, initial attraction to said hypersexual or not hypersexual, hyperfeminine or hypermasculine qualities, right? But in those societies, if the person valued such a thing, if they valued more traditional things, even within a society that was more gender equalitarian, is that a word? I don't know. Let's just say it's a word.
Okay.
um, they would still revert back to the wanting of youth and beauty or intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say, do you have to change? Depending on your society, yes. For how long? Again, depends on the society, but I think beneficially for both you and the possible partner that you want, you're gonna need to break down some barriers of your facade.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's where I'm gonna end it.
Okay. Well, we are about 19 minutes in. Anything else we want?
Um, that I want to talk more, but I understand we have to stop.
Yeah. Okay.
Hi.
All
So,
right. Well, we'll talk more about this off screen,
mm-hmm.
but I think for now, this video, we're good to go. We'll say goodbye to our audience. Thank
Okay.
you for listening. Let us know what you think in the comments. If you
Mhm.
thought this was interesting, we can go longer. We'll talk about it. We'll see.
Yeah. Bye
All
bye,
right.
humans.
Goodbye, humans.